Have you ever stopped to think about how massive organizations actually work? I mean, we're talking about global companies with thousands of employees all scattered across the world. How do they keep everyone moving in the same direction without it all just falling into complete and utter chaos? Well, it might seem impossible, but there's a kind of secret blueprint they all use.
It's really the biggest question in management, isn't it? How do you make sure your goals are met, that you're managing all the crazy risks out there, and that work actually gets done right? How do you take this incredibly complex mix of people and rules and somehow create order?
Well, it turns out there's a world-renowned blueprint for this, a kind of master plan that keeps the whole ship sailing smoothly. You could almost call it the secret language of how big companies stay in control.
And that blueprint has a name, the Cosmo Internal Control Framework. Now, this isn't just some random idea. It is the absolute gold standard that tons of organizations rely on to build and run an effective system of internal control.
So what is it really? Well, Cosmo gives companies a clear, structured way to get where they want to go. The best way to think about it is like an instruction manual for building a really solid, well-managed company starting from the inside.
And here it is. This is the most famous picture of it, the Cosmo Cube. I know, it looks a little complicated, but it's actually a pretty brilliant way to see how all the different pieces of internal control are supposed to fit together. It's a 3D model, and each of its three faces tells us something super important about control.
So let's break down what we're looking at. The top of the cube, those are the objectives, basically what the company is trying to do. The front face shows us the 5 core components. These are the actual building blocks of the whole system. And then the side shows the structure, which is all about how these controls are used across the entire organization. Now, that front face of the cube is where the real magic is. We're going to dive in and unpack those 5 components because they are the absolute heart and soul of this entire framework. So, let's see how this thing is built.
Here they are: the control environment, risk assessment, control activities, information and communication, and finally, monitoring. But listen, these aren't just items on some boring checklist. They're 5 deeply connected pillars that hold up the entire structure of control.
Okay, the first building block is the control environment. This is the bedrock, the foundation of everything. It's what people call the tone at the top. It's all about the ethical culture, the integrity, and the standards that the leadership team sets for everybody. If this foundation is shaky, the whole thing could come crashing down. Next up, you've got risk assessment. You can think of this as the company's watchtower. It's the job of constantly scanning the horizon, looking for any potential risks that could stop the company from hitting its goals, and then figuring out just how serious those risks are. You know, without this, you're just flying blind.
So, once you've spotted the risks, you need control activities. These are the actual things you do about them. We're talking about the specific policies, the procedures, getting approvals, doing reconciliations, all that hands-on work that makes sure the boss's plans are actually being followed.
The fourth piece is information and communication. This is basically the nervous system for the whole operation. I mean, a great control system is totally useless if the right people don't get the information they need when they need it. This part makes sure that all the important stuff flows up, down, and across the company so everyone knows what's going on.
And finally, we have monitoring. Look, the world is always changing, right? New risks pop up, and old systems can get a little rusty. Monitoring is the process of constantly checking in to make sure the entire control system is still working the way it's supposed to, and tweaking it when it's not. It's the feedback loop that keeps the whole thing healthy. Okay, so you have these 5 components, but here's the thing. Just saying you have them isn't enough. For this system to really truly work, there are 2 key requirements that have to be met. So here they are, the 2 magic words. First, controls have to be present, meaning they actually exist in the plan. But way more important, they have to be functioning. They have to be working every single day. The best way to think about it is this. You can have the most expensive lock in the world on your door, but it's totally useless if nobody ever bothers to turn the key. And this is absolutely crucial. These 5 components can't work off in their own little bubbles. They have to operate together in a totally integrated and dynamic way. Each one affects the others, and together they form this powerful, interconnected system that makes the whole organization safer.
Now, this all sounds pretty good on paper, but you might be wondering, who's actually responsible for making this whole complex system work? Is it some special department? A team of auditors? Let's find out.
Well, no surprise here, it really does start at the very top. Senior management has the ultimate responsibility. They're the ones who set that tone at the top we talked about. They design the system, they keep an eye on the risks, and they're the ones who have to step in and fix things when they go wrong.
But, and this is a really big but, it's not only on them. While the leaders are ultimately on the hook, every single person in the company has a part to play. Everyone is expected to do their part and, maybe most importantly, to speak up if they see a weakness or a problem. It really is a shared responsibility.
Now, it'd be easy to look at this framework and think, okay, if we just follow the blueprint, we're untouchable. But the COSO framework is smart. It knows that no system is perfect, and sometimes even the best controls can fail.
This right here is one of the most important things to understand. The goal of internal control is to give you reasonable assurance, not absolute assurance. It's all about managing and reducing risk down to a level you can live with, not getting rid of it completely. Because, let's be honest, perfection is impossible.
And why is that? Well, because every system has what they call inherent limitations. People, even with the best intentions, make honest mistakes. A manager who's dishonest might decide to just ignore control. A few employees could work together to get around the system. And of course, there are huge external events, like a natural disaster or a recession, that are just completely outside of a company's control.
So when you boil it all down, this whole thing, it isn't really about creating some kind of flawless, rule-following robot of a company. That's not the real point.
Instead, it's about something much, much bigger. It's about building an organization that's resilient, that's ethical, and that's reliable. It's about building a company that people, investors, customers, employees, can actually put their faith in. So maybe that's the real point of all these rules and controls. Not just to stop bad things from happening, but to build an organization that's truly worthy of our trust. What do you think?